Listen up, all fight fans and fitness junkies. You've been listening to me talk about Jocko Fuel for a while now, and if you've been waiting, the wait is over. This August, you can score a massive 30% off on all of Jocko Fuel's top-tier supplements. That's right, 30% off. Jocko Fuel is loaded with all of the good stuff and none of the bad. We're talking no added sugar, no artificial sweeteners, and absolutely no gray area or banned substances. Just pure, clean fuel to power your performances. And guys, I really want you to try some of my favorites like Jocko Go and Jocko Hydrate. This deal is only going to be available for the month of August. So use code Chael30 or go to JockoFuel.com. Don't wait. Fuel up with Jocko Fuel and crush your goals. Guys, click on the link below to make it happen. Dana was doing something candid. I think this is called an Instagram Live. But it was something just very candid where he's in the war room and he's working. He's talking to the public. You guys can ask him questions. He's firing back. And he says something. I get all of this. I got to set this up because the whole clip is only 14 seconds. So this is my sense. And Dana says, we got some news coming out. We got some news coming out on Conor. We got some news coming out on Chandler. Got some news coming out on Oliveira. We got some news coming out on Holloway. And that's all he says, right? Now, this is called a tease. This is awesome. I mean, it just works. Hey, I got some news. Come back tomorrow. Dana lured me in a couple months ago. Where were we? That was the night Paddy Pimblett fought King Green. When was that? About 2 months ago? So the day before, Dana announces, hey, tune in tomorrow at 1. I'm going to be on Instagram Live. And he had some big news. And those have never got me. The news will come out. I'll hear about it. Off we go. I don't have to see it live. I had to see that live. I didn't know how to do it. I have Instagram, but I know how to do it. So I get Brett Okamogo and Laura Sanko. They're on board too. Like there was something about, I have news, but I'm not going to give it to you till tomorrow. Like there was something about all three of us are huddled around a phone. He ends up canceling it, by the way. If you're wondering what the news was, he leaves us hanging at 1 o'clock and it was like 12 minutes past and he sends out a message. It's canceled. Not tune in, it'll be an hour late. I don't know what that news was. I don't know if it ever came, but it worked. The hook worked. Now, I feel like it kind of answered itself on Conor. When he said, I have news coming out on Conor and news coming out on Chandler. It's like, okay, I think, right? I think those are together. Got a pretty good idea, which means a date. There's nothing else to discuss there. And that is interesting. Okay. And he slips in Oliveira. Now, I was late to the party on Charles Oliveira. You guys have told me for years, okay? I was late. And I finally even made a deal with Gabriel Checo that I would not say anything bad about Charles. But it left me with nothing to talk about. I didn't get it. I watched Charles fight Sakarin. He lost the fight. I watched it and I was close. I was right there. It was a different vantage point. I've never got to see Charles that close. And even in losing the fight, which was the right call, he lost the fight. Now I get it. I saw it. I saw what you guys have been seeing. I saw what you've been telling me to see. And I can't wait for the news. I can't wait for Charles's next fight. I would be very excited to know who that's going to be. And there was a rumor going around that Charles was going to fight at Noche. I'm not suggesting for you he does. It's in 2 weeks. But there was a rumor at one point that he was going to fight at Noche. Oh, and by the way, it was going to be against Brian Ortega. I was into it. I thought that was very interesting. Now, the reason I suggest for you Brian Ortega is everything surrounding Charles for the longest period of time, including his very last fight, had to do with the title. Whether he was fighting for titles, whether he was defending titles, or in his very last fight, the winner draws in to Islam for a title fight. And when I tell you Ortega, I just think you've got some really interesting parity and some really interesting potential news on Charles, particularly once you understand a different world is now opening up for him, right? Number 2 through 10 is now open for Charles, where that was not the case. 1, 2, and 3. Which order do you want to do it? Those were all that were available for Charles. Okay, great. Hold that thought. Dana said Holloway. Did he say that on accident? Sometimes you'll get on a roll I've been there where I'm seeing somebody else in my head and a different name comes out or vice versa, right? He's in the war room. Max's name is up there in a couple of spots. I would assume opposite Topuria for the world title. Weren't we told that? And the only reason I'm not positive, guys, is we've known it was Max versus Topuria since the post-fight press conference at UFC 300, which was back in April, but it was never announced. We thought it was going to be on Noche, and then we found out for sure it's going to be Salt Lake City. That even got reported by the media, but the UFC stepped in front of it and said, hey, they're speculating. We haven't said that yet. Then when the UFC did say, I thought it was for Abu Dhabi. But now Dana has said he's got news coming out on Holloway, and if he misspoke, which I would assume is most likely, but what if he didn't? What if he didn't misspeak? Oh, by the way, when he said I got news coming out on Conor, he quickly said, Chandler, we think that we know that. What if he just did it again? Because the one for 302 that should have been made, when Conor came off the card and could not fight Chandler, the fight to make was a BMF title of Max versus Charles. That was the fight to make. And I know that those discussions, I wasn't the only one. I came out and I was pushing it, but that caught wind. People like that idea. There was something to it, ever so small, in all fairness. And I believe that Max is fighting Ilya. In fact, I don't believe there is Holloway news coming out. I think that Dana saw something and a name came out. That's what I think. But I'm not positive. It's not what he said. He said I got news on Holloway. Would it be possible to have news on Holloway that doesn't involve Ilya? Would it be possible? If that fight were interrupted, before you could have any news on Holloway, you would have to interrupt that fight. Is it possible that that fight could be interrupted and we don't know? I mean, that seems like a thing where you break into an Instagram live and you say it instantly to be the one that told it because we're all going to find out, right? Telephone, telegraph, or tell a fighter. None of them can keep a secret. The word's going to get out. Is that possible? Or do we come back to he misspoke? Okay. But it does make for something very peculiar. And the whole way around, we haven't heard Conor's name mentioned by the UFC in fight news. Hey, I got an announcement coming out with Conor, where his name then got watered down with 3 other guys. We got on Holloway, Chandler, and Oliver. That hasn't happened before. He commands his own type of press. So it was an interesting statement. And what could that news be? And is there something on Holloway? Because if it's not Topuria, I would assume it has to do with the BMF belt. I guess we're all going to have to wait and find out.